Hello, 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 and welcome to the Joy of Connection. So great that you could join us tonight. And we're going to have a really interesting conversation about emotions. But before we go there, I wanted to actually acknowledge that on Sunday we just had World Mental Health Day. And I hope that we were all able to acknowledge that and maybe reach out to somebody that you know may be suffering with their mental health, or you know that they're suffering with it, but they're in a bit of denial. So whichever way that goes, if you were able to reach out to someone, that would have been lovely, I would say. And also, I wanted to mention that I am personally very excited because I'm going on holiday today. Yay! Well, I mean tomorrow morning. So I'm very excited about getting out and doing something. It'll be my first time in 2 years taking a proper trip abroad. So I'm really looking forward to it. But don't worry, don't freak out. We're still going to have a show next week because I am international. I can have my show anywhere that I choose. So, yeah, I'm very excited. But anyway, moving back, looking forward and directing our conversation tonight, I would love to welcome somebody I know very well, but somebody who's really good at her craft. She's a holistic life coach who specializes in emotions, and we all have plenty of those. So please welcome to the screen, Tracy Frost. Hi, Tracy.
Hi, Michelle. How are you doing?
Good, 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 good. You know what? I was trying to think, should I say welcome to the screen, welcome to the show, welcome to the, because we're live and we're not live. I mean, people are going to watch it in a review. So anybody who watches the replay, welcome to whatever you want to call it. So Tracy, please tell the audience here where you're from and where you live.
Okay, well, I was born in Sherborne in Dorset, and I now live back in Sherborne in Dorset. But in between, we've moved to Bristol and Devon and Cornwall. And for 9 years, we lived in Nova Scotia in Canada.
Wow, Nova Scotia. What would take someone to Nova Scotia? Is it deep sea fishing or something? Like why does anyone move to Nova Scotia? Please educate me.
It could have been. My brother and I have always been fairly close, and his wife and I are fairly close. And our two eldest are only sort of like, I don't know, 2 or 3 months apart. So we'd always said it'd be lovely to live next door to each other. We looked at doing it over here, but house prices were too expensive. And then we thought we'd buy some land, but that didn't work either. Then they moved to Norway. And then David, he's a podiatrist, so he didn't practice as much over there. And he was looking for somewhere else to go. So asked whether we wanted to go with them. So we said yes.
That's nice. That's lovely. What a lovely family. I mean, I'm not sure I'd want to live next door to my siblings. I might be close to them, but I'm not sure if I would live next door or even down the road. So that says a lot about your siblings. But the question is, after 9 years, are you still close? That's the real question.
I think so, yeah. I mean, he's still there and I'm back over here. So the distance, you don't always talk as often. And I think I'm probably closer. I talk more with his wife, Andrew. My husband and David are closer. So in that sense, you know what I mean? They talk man things. So.
And I think that kind of happens when you become couples.
Yeah.
They kind of start to develop their thing and the women develop their thing. You still have that crisscross good relationship, but that tends to grow. So I get that. Wow. So speaking of connection, you're connected to your brother in that way, which is really beautiful. Connected to your sister-in-law as well. How did we connect? Can you remember?
I think it was probably a couple of years ago. We did through our oils, our doTERRA oils. I'm sure it was through there.
Yes, I love the doTERRA oils.
Yeah.
That's right. And we're still fans of it. We're still buying them and selling them and using them and sharing them and growing that. So that's wonderful. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But, one of the things that I ask all my guests, because as a relationship coach, it's all about relationships and it's about self-love and self-care. And so I wanted to ask you, what does Tracy do for self-love? and self-care?
I've not always been good at that. I've learned sort of over the last couple of years how much more important it was. But at the moment, there's things going on with mum, and the last, I'd say 10 days, I've really not been very good to myself. I've been tired. So I just think, oh, I can't be bothered. So you just get on with your mundane stuff. But actually, I know when I stop and I meditate, or I go outside with bare feet on the grass and take that time, it changes my life. It makes it easier. It makes me more grounded. It helps me feel better about who I am. But being a people pleaser, you don't always stop to do your own stuff, right?
Yeah. So define people pleaser. What does that mean, really?
Ooh, well,
what does it mean to you? Let's say
it means that when I feel I'm a people, I feel that I'm pulled by everybody. I can't say no, but that's something that I learned from a very young age, to sort of morph into the people, the environment around me, just to fit in and not cause a scene. So it takes a lot to not be a people pleaser. You feel quite bad if you've let somebody down, or you said no when you probably could have said yes. So for me, I just feel completely pulled. I don't remember if there was a toy called Stretch Armstrong, and he was made out of some elastic, and he was just pulled and pulled and pulled. Yeah. That's yeah.
And so, do you often feel that way, like you're just pulled to maximum capacity?
Yeah, I did used to. Not so much. This year's been interesting. I haven't. But the last couple of years, I felt not as pulled, apart from the last couple of months. Now I do feel pulled. Yeah.
And has that been because you've taken control, or you've been less emotional about it, or like why would it be less then?
I think it's because I've allowed the emotions to come up, not suppressed them. Like doing the holistic life coaching course, I learned a lot through that about who I was, and the experiences that I need to feel. So touching in with my emotions, really touching in with them, not just knowing what they're about, but touching them, has changed. I'm able to do things for me more, rather than doing it always for them, because I'm busy looking after myself. So that energy goes out. They don't tend to ask because they must feel the energy is not there to ask, right?
Yeah. And we have Denise here saying that people pleasers want others to feel good. It's an empath trait. So would you describe yourself as an empath?
Yeah.
And for those who may be listening who have no clue what that term means, can you define what an empath is?
An empath, there's different levels of empathy or an empath, but for me, I can walk into a room and I can feel if the energy is not right, or I can walk into someone's house and know that they've had an argument. Sometimes you pick up and people offload their emotions. They don't realize that they are. And empaths are a bit like a sponge, that they soak it all up. But there's only so much a sponge can soak up, and then it spills out. Yeah. So they pick up on other people's stuff.
Would you say as an empath, then you tend to attract certain people that want to offload on you, or want sympathy or attention because they know that you're handed to them?
Yeah, you do. There are people that gravitate towards you because they know that you will listen. I remember when I worked over in Canada, I worked in like a supermarket behind like the chicken counter, and I was round the front sorting out the sandwiches. And this guy, he was British, so there was a connection anyway. And he was talking about why he was there and everything else. I said, oh yeah, okay, that's really nice. I've got to go. But he just followed me, and he must have been there for 20 minutes because he needed to offload what his issues were. He didn't want me to fix them, but he just knew that there was a sponge that would take it on board, right? Bless him. So yeah, you do attract certain people.
Yeah. Okay. And is that something that's innately born within you, or do you think it's something that you grow into based on your experiences at home, based on the people that you've been attracted to as well, spending time around?
I don't know the answer to that. I would say I feel that I was born like that. That's something that I didn't grow into it. That's something that's, when I look back, has always been around. I remember at school there was a boy that had something wrong with his legs and had calipers and stuff on his legs and couldn't walk and stuff. So I remember having brand new shoes and allowing him to go on my back and maybe on all fours so that I could help him around the playground. So I scuffed my shoes, right? So you just,
So sweet. I mean, yeah, as Denise saying, you must have had lovely energy that he knew that he could trust you to do that.
Yeah, I suppose. So I don't know. I'll have to think about that as to whether you're born it or whether you grow into it. I think people can understand empathy.
Yeah.
Thank you, Denise.
I mean, I don't think I would have been a person on a
you would. Yeah.
I would have been like, "Oh, Tracy, you might want to help this kid." I'm the connector. I'm connected with the person that will do it. I'm not necessarily going to do it myself.
I'm keeping my shoes clean and tidy.
Yeah, a bit of vanity going on here. I'm like, oh, I don't want to go home and have to complain to my parents to answer my shoes. So, that's a lovely trait, though. It's really, really kind. It's a really lovely kind of kindness. So, do you think people know what their emotions are? I mean, it's a word that we throw around all the time. Oh, this person's too emotional. Oh, this person doesn't have any emotion. Do you think people really know what emotions are? Or how to define them, maybe?
I think they know what the extremes of the emotions are. Like, what anger is, and temper and frustration, and you know what sort of depression is. But all those bits in between, I think people tend to not necessarily know. They tend to, they might not even know how to feel their emotions. They might have been, from a young age, taught to suppress it. You don't want, why are you always so happy, right? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't take much for someone to knock it out of you and go, I feel really happy, but I can't be happy here, so I'll just dull it down, as opposed to worrying, right? Why do you always worry? So you keep it in. People don't realize, I think, that they keep their emotions in until it gets to the extreme, right? They'll be too much. Yeah.
That's a really good point. And so thinking about that and thinking about emotions and that you're specializing in it, how did you get into coaching? What was the catalyst? Was there something that sort of inspired you?
Well, being an empath, you always get people come to you. So you sort of give yourself, I was going to say give yourself away for free, but I don't mean it in that. Do you know what I mean?
Let's not go there.
That's a different show. No.
That's a different show.
So it's something that I've always been interested in, but never really took the leap of faith to go and do it. It's like, who am I to do this? Why would somebody want to listen to me? Then the opportunity came to do it with a couple of really wonderful ladies. And I grabbed it with both hands. So I want to be able to help people not always feel like I have felt. And I think sometimes, well, you know yourself with a coach, when you're in the middle of it, you can't always see it. You always need someone else's perspective to say, have you thought about this? And they go, I had, but I was too bogged down in the mire to notice it really. So about helping people really.
Yeah, and it's a great extension of who you already are. So as you said, that example you gave earlier, it just illustrates you helping a young boy in the playground. So now you're just doing it as an adult and helping people that just need that helping hand, maybe that lifting up, and you have that. So, I was thinking about it when we said we were going to have a conversation about emotions, and I was just thinking that, as you said, often we suppress our emotions because we don't want to deal with something. But I just made a note on a few things that people often have their emotions, or how should I define it? Well, when people are emotional, they will often overeat or undereat, as you said to me.
Yeah.
They may become depressed. They may drink or smoke, and these are all connected to your emotions, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel people start to feel whatever it is, and they're not used to that feeling, so it could scare them, um, or it might just shock them, it might freeze them. So they need something else to take away the emotion that's actually coming up, so that you can just sort of live life on a level without those heightened emotions.
Mm,
But if we feel our emotions, they don't become so heightened,
right.
because they're not suppressed. You aren't going to be that complete volcano of anger. I mean, I've been there. I'm sure we all have, right?
Yeah.
I'm not saying I've never been that volcano, because I have, but is
Yeah.
that because I haven't dealt with all the little things that has built up, right?
Yeah. So you're saying that you don't necessarily need to go to the extremes if you're sort of riding that wave of emotion constantly. When you're up, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and feel it, and sort of understand it for what it is. If you are feeling low, how low are you feeling, right? If you're feeling worried, how worried are you feeling? And is the worry needed or not needed, right?
Right.
Is that a fear? Is worry a fear, right, of something that could happen? Is it an anxiety? Like, they're all sort of intermixed with all of it, right? You can't just say, well, I'm this and I'm this and I'm this. I mean, like within anger, there's lots of different forms of anger. You'll get the raging anger, you've got the jealous anger, you've got the frustrated anger, there's an overwhelmed anger,
Good
right?
point.
So
Yeah,
there's lots of ranges within one emotion.
that's right.
Um, so are you raging because you haven't dealt with stuff and it's your fault and you're raging? Are you jealous and you're angry because you're really envious of somebody and you've not looked at it and thought, well, it doesn't really matter, right? There's lots of different emotions within emotions.
It's really interesting, actually, now that you said that, because I think of, when I get angry, it takes a long time for me to get angry. I will just sort of maybe justify the behavior, the opinion, or just sort of, or be indifferent to it, like, oh, yeah, that's how so and so was behaved, whatever, keep it moving.
Yeah.
Whereas my partner can go from 0 to 100 in like 30 seconds. And I always found that really interesting.
Yeah.
I always found that really interesting, that he could go from 0 to 100 about something that would take me maybe days to get to that, or not even go there. Is there a reason why some people can't? I don't want to say can't control it, because I think he's in control of it. Because he'll be angry, but he'll be angry for maybe 30 seconds and then he moves on.
Yeah. But I think that's that trigger, that's that button that's been pressed, isn't it? If it's a jealous anger that you tend to hold on to more, something around you would make you go from 0 to 10 if there's that jealous part around. But if there was like an overwhelmed and they don't get overwhelmed, that anger won't be there. It depends on what their trigger points are and what their frustration, or more so their trigger points. So what would make him angry probably wouldn't make you angry.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you say trigger, can we dig into that a little bit more? I mean, what is the trigger point? I know what, again, and we've got people that may not know these terminologies that we would use as coaches. So what is a trigger?
Well, something that happens that, I have to think about this because it's more of a feeling, isn't it? It's something that will happen around you that probably you've suppressed a long time ago and have denied it within yourself. So if it's happening around you, it's like somebody pushing like that red button, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's like, oh, that's happening, and it goes in. People, you're not really aware that you're being triggered until it's exploded.
Yeah.
To just say, yeah, otherwise you'll have like, of course, physical. Yeah.
Yeah. like stomach aches or headaches or just
and different. And I mean, I know this is like different emotions affect different parts of our body. Like anger this is just what I've picked up. I'm not saying it's like the gospel or whatever, but it can weaken the liver. Fear can weaken the kidneys. So if you're constantly in fear, then your kidneys are working overtime because it's going through your kidneys, as well as your physical body needing the kidneys as well.
Tell me a bit about the kidneys and the organs, how it affects your organs. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know much about that. That's something that I've just recently found out about. So I'm in the process of. I know. So our emotions, if they're suppressed, then they go in. They can like cause physical ailments that then you have to deal with. So you don't really want it to be causing other issues as well as like on an emotional level. Mm-hmm.
I know a lot of people that suffer from migraines, and I know sometimes people say, oh, it's red wine, it's triggered by red wine and chocolate and things like that. But most times it's actually triggered by an emotion, isn't it?
Yep. Like headaches, they say, are from scattered thoughts, and those scattered thoughts are normally about yourself that aren't particularly good, which cause the headache. So
that's a good point. So do you have any triggers? Things that
I've got plenty of triggers.
Is it kind of like we don't have that kind of time to talk about all this?
How long do you have? I'll bring the scroll out. It's getting better. Like I'm much more aware of it and being able to be. I don't like the word control. Maybe manage it.
Manage, yeah.
I feel manage is a softer thing because you can hold it, and sometimes you might want to drop it because it's not pleasant. Yeah, it can affect your heart too. Yeah, it can. Like stress can really affect the heart. Yeah,
absolutely. But go back to that concept you were just saying. Let's just go back about holding it and dropping it, because I like that. It's like a hot coal.
Yeah.
But it's cool. You're holding it, and then the minute it gets really hot, you just got to drop it, and that kind of reminds me of a reaction. You're building up, and then when the anger reaches a certain point, you drop the anger on someone.
Exactly. Yeah, wow. That's it. And that's when like you try and manage it. So you you could be feeling how the anger's feeling as it's growing. So you would be able to then manage it and go, okay, so why am I feeling this?
Yes.
And ask your questions and bring yourself back down again, right? As opposed to letting it become that really hot coal and going, I don't want to be holding that anymore, right?
So you mentioned to me in the past about, I don't know if it's a philosopher, but somebody by the name of, is it Gabor Mate?
Gabor Mate, yes. He's
who is
a Hungarian physician.
He's a what?
He's a Hungarian/Canadian physician, but he's looked more into trauma, into children, and how has a lasting impact on their lives. Yeah.
So did you say he had an expression, or there was something?
Really, if I can remember, I did tell you earlier, but I'll see if I can. So trauma isn't the act that actually happened to you. Trauma is the child normally being left with the feelings on their own to deal with it. And because it's a trauma, the children don't understand the feelings. So it could be something as, I don't know, you're always so loud, right? I know that doesn't sound much, but as a child, if you're told that, you don't only need to be told it 5 or 6 times for you to really think, oh, this is going somewhere, right? So that trauma of, okay, those feelings, nobody was there to help that child to understand why they needed to be quiet, or the fact that it's okay to talk, but not within that scenario, right? So it's where they're left with those feelings.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I mean, I was always told that I was too friendly and I should stop smiling to people because I'd get kidnapped.
You have a beautiful smile.
Sorry?
You have a beautiful smile.
No, well, I continued smiling, and I used to just say to them, well, I might get a better home, so it might not be so bad.
I always used to say, yeah, to my children, they'll bring you back, it's okay.
Yeah, things that traumatize my friends, I just be like, oh, my parents say all sorts of things. I just think, whatever.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. So, yeah, interesting.
Oh, my goodness.
And I think with those patterns, when you've had that impact, you build like a safety net around you. You build a pattern of how you keep that vulnerable bit of you safe. And as you get older, you still have those patterns, although they might not do you any good as you get older, right?
Yes,
but it's what you've done. You do it all subconsciously. So
behavior, isn't it? Yeah, and you've been conditioned to handle it a certain way. When I'm coaching my clients, sometimes I ask them, if you could describe yourself as an egg, how would you be on the inside and how would you be on the outside?
Oh, that's interesting.
Think of the shape of an egg, and what are you like on the inside, what are you on the outside? And it's really surprising because you expect people to think, oh, well, on the inside I'm really soft, and on the outside, no, or on the outside, I'm soft on the inside, soft on the outside, because it's like my heart's like the egg is like my heart, it represents the heart. But you hear all sorts of things, and it's really, really a great exercise because then you start asking, so why does your heart is shaped like an egg. That's what I say. Your heart is shaped like an egg. How does it feel? And then they might say, well, I'm shelling. I'm like, well, so what are you peeling away at? You start really asking some really interesting questions. It's a nice one. Yeah. And talking about inner child and trauma, I mean, I kind of feel like every child has had some form of trauma. Of course, they're extremes.
Yes.
But there's a lot of traumas that, as we said just before, that will create learned behavior. And what might be traumatic to me may not be as traumatic to you, vice versa.
Yeah, depending on your makeup and the family dynamics, where you fit into that, what's been said to you or what's happened to you, right? It does. And like those patterns, I know for me that I learned if I got cross and angry, people would stay away. So when I learned that when I was getting cross and angry, it was because there was a part of me that was becoming really vulnerable, and I didn't want people to see that because that was the part of the trauma when I was a child. I was vulnerable. I was made to feel whatever it was. So I learned that by shouting and being angry, people stayed away. But someone else might cry or make jokes, right? There's those whole different things that you bring along into adulthood that doesn't always serve you, really, but it's something that's we're not exposed to, right? It's not things that you're taught at school, right? So
I know some people that when they're hurting, or that they'll say something negative about themselves first so that you can't hurt them. So I said it before you said it. So and it's another protection mechanism.
Exactly. And we all do it, and then we react to other people's like protection because they're like this, and you go, oh, that's really good, because that's then hurt you, and it's just that whole knock-on effect. So there's all these like inner children that are like hurting, but they don't express it to anybody else for somebody else to go, oh yeah, I feel like that too. Right? They just keep people at bay, and then because they're keeping people at bay, that other people are hurt, so they go, right, well, I'm not going to go near you, and it doesn't form that connection that we all really need, right?
Right, and I also think society doesn't really say vulnerability is a good thing, especially with men. Most men are taught to not cry and get over it, be the man in the family, and
but how can you do that if you're feeling like you're 6 or 7 years old, right? You might look like a fully grown adult, but inside there's this child going, but I don't know how to do it. I need this or I need that. And
And do you think kids could be taught about vulnerability?
Absolutely could. Because they're so open to everything. That's why they end up with the trauma in the first place, right? Or the inner child gets that hurt and everything else. But I think they could. They would lap it up. They're so they're still in their learning years, aren't they? They listen to what the adults say around them. I think it would. Isn't there somewhere? I think there's somewhere that they do like meditation in school. I mean, can you imagine learning to do that at such a young age?
Absolutely. Right? And with Charlene here saying we are all wounded children protecting ourselves through learned behavior.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You got a resolute absolutely there.
Yeah.
So what things can we do to help with emotions? I mean, I know you and I are big doTERRA fans and you know, we use oils. Can you recommend some oils to help?
There's some amazing oils. Balance, which is like a grounding oil. It's lots of tree and root oils that will just bring you back down. When you feel that, I always feel it here, or my shoulders are up. That'll bring you back down. Yeah, you know that you're feeling stress or that anxiety or something's coming in. That will bring you down. Wild orange is beautiful just for that uplifting smell of the oranges. It makes you feel that you're in a really warm place with those beautiful orange groves and stuff. It's amazing. Like before I came on today, I've got my rollerball of lavender and pepper and spearmint.
And spearmint, okay.
So lavender is about communication, but it's not just about communication with yourself. It's about self-communication too, gentle communication. And spearmint is about public speaking. So you put the two together, and I've been like this like all beforehand on my throat, like, and there's loads. And I learned today. Karen Jackson was talking about it today, saying that black spruce is for fear, and you can put some on like the back of your neck, just at the bottom of your hairline. You know, there's lots of ones. There's beautiful oils out there, but there's other things to do if you don't have oils too.
Yeah, like what? What other things would you use to?
You can do your breathing, right? Breathing is always. I mean, most people know about that. You take some deep breath in and out, and that sort of brings your heart rate down. So then you don't allow yourself to get into that heightened state of emotions, whether it's stress, anxiety, or fear and stuff. So you've got your breathing, you've got your box breathing where you breathe in for the same, you hold for the same, you breathe out for the same and hold for the same. So that's quite good if you're trying to get your, do they call them mind monkeys, out of your head? And I like the one that, that's it. And I like the one that you breathe in twice quickly and then out. That sort of like flushes it out. So you sort of go, and it just sort of like brings it up.
Just release.
Yeah, which does that. So breathing's really good. I always like to tell people about getting this is a little crystal stone or a shell that you keep with you. So if it's on you and you think, oh, I'm getting heightened, you pick it up and you think, oh yeah, this feels a bit cool. And you just focus on what's in your hand. You move it around in your fingers and maybe change hands. You see that bit's smooth, this bit's a bit rough. So it takes away what you're thinking about and you're just focusing on something that is important at the time, but not important if you're having to pull yourself back from feeling anxious or stressed, you know. And like the shell would be very different because it's a different shape, right? So you think there's a pointy bit, there's a bit, or there's the opening, that's where the animal would have lived. So there's plenty of other things that you can do. Grounding, walking outside with bare feet, that's really good. Being around nature.
So what about if you are flying, for example, you're going on a plane like I am tomorrow, and you get panicked as it's taking off? Because I see people, you know, a lot of people just get a drink because they think that's going to resolve it, which makes it worse, to be honest. Later on, you're dehydrated and all of that. But what would your crystal be a good thing to be holding at that point? I
think so, because you can carry it with you, and also your imagination. You have an amazing thing in your brain, like with your brain, just that whole being able to be somewhere else, right? You can just imagine, you can close your eyes and you can be wherever, and you can feel where's your space that you like to be. Is it by the beach? Is it in the woods? Is it in a city, right? If you know that place before you go to these place that's going to heighten the anxiety, you can say, right, I'm going to sit on the plane. You can have your stone or your pebble and you can focus on that. But if that's not working, you can go, is the fairground somewhere that you want to be? Close your eyes, be at the fairground. Are you on the Helter Skelter? Have you gone into the ghost train? You know, are you eating toffee apples? Like, there's lots that you can do to bring. And if you've got oils, absolutely use the oils.
Yeah,
right?
they're amazing.
I would go to them every time, but not, I've only just found them, so it's not like everybody knows about them. So.
Exactly. Well, Tracy, this has been really fascinating and a nice snippet into the world of emotions, because I know that it's a huge subject and we could talk about it for hours and days. But I feel like at least we've touched on it and have got a good sense of it. So, a question for you: a lot of people, as we wrap up, I'm just thinking about this. A lot of people are feeling really emotional. I don't want to say post-COVID because we're not post-COVID, but post-lockdown. Let's use that expression. And so for those that may be just coming out of lockdown themselves, even though we officially came out in the UK in July anyway, I know there's some people who say, I'm still afraid to go outside. It's been so long. Or I've seen children that are being called COVID babies because they've not socialized since they were born. And so they're afraid and fearful of the outside world. And so, people that may be really struggling with their emotions now post-COVID, do you have any tips for them? Anything that they should be thinking about doing to take that step of trust and to get out back into the world to re-socialize?
It's about trusting yourself, isn't it? Right. So all the things that we have mentioned, but also if you write down, like, are you fearful? Is it fear or scared? Are they different? Are they the same? And just write down what you think those things are, and then look at each one. Is it real? Do you really feel threatened by this? Or is it something that you know that isn't real, but because of things you think it is, right? You need to sort of not analyze, because nobody, when they're feeling like that, wants to sit down and analyze everything. But at least if you write down why you're scared, why you're fearful, do you feel you still need to wear a mask? Do you feel silly for wearing one, right? If you write those things down, you'll be able to see a pattern through what you've written down. And then, ask a question to it. Do I feel this is true for me? And it's about how it is for you, because it might not be true for somebody else.
Right.
And try not to worry about what other people are doing, because you can't change what they're doing. You can only change what you're doing. And if you're trying to keep yourself safe, you have to do what you want to do to make yourself feel safe, right? There's plenty of judgment in the world, right? But if you're not judging, then that's also sending out a thing that I don't judge, so maybe you're not going to judge me.
Yeah.
We've got to start somewhere, right?
We've got to start somewhere. I love that. That's really beautiful. Well, you know what? We are almost out of time. So I just want to say thank you so much for coming onto the show and talking to us about emotions and sharing with us some really great tips of how to manage how we're feeling. So thank you so much. It's been lovely. It's lovely to have you on the show.
Yeah, I've talked and talked, haven't I?
Which is great. That's what you're on the show to do, to talk. So we're happy you're doing that. So for those of you who want to reach Tracy on her Facebook page, it's TJ Inner Sparkle. Or you said it could be just Inner Sparkle as well, right?
I think, yeah. I mean, if you look for Inner Sparkle, I think that comes up, but that's the name that it is. And you're talking to a technophobe here. It's just...
Well, if anyone has let us know. So Tracy, thank you so much for joining us on the show. And I'll see you back in the green room.
Yeah, will do. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. So it's the end of another wonderful evening. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I've done. I mean, this is really great stuff. We're going to be practicing those breathing techniques a bit more. I do them, but not in the way that Tracy does it. So I love that. But we're getting some love hearts from Eva. So great. think everyone's got some great tips from Tracy tonight. So as I say, as I usually end the show tonight, most nights, be joyful, be connected, and shine your light. Good night. See you next week.